Legend has it that a vampire named Yowie is hiding at Vampire Rock in the Australian outback, where the Vampire Rock Music Festival is taking place. Daniel, who is the manager of the contest, is directing the event when he is suddenly called aside by Malcolm. Malcolm is Daniel's grandfather and the only person who truly knows the many legends surrounding this place. He tries to warn Daniel about Yowie, but Daniel shows no sign of fear. Instead, his dismissive attitude ends up provoking Yowie and forcing the vampire to reveal himself. Yowie and his vampire minions quickly kidnap the band right before everyone's eyes, leaving the crowd in shock. Only then does Daniel realize that the legend is completely real, but by that point it is already too late. Meanwhile, Mystery Inc. is enjoying a vacation in Australia. Although their trip does not begin smoothly because they keep running into strange mysteries, in the end Scooby-Doo and Shaggy have to step in to deal with the so-called monsters, exposing the people hiding behind the masks. Afterward, Mystery Inc. is finally able to enjoy their holiday properly. Except for poor Shaggy, who is once again left disappointed when Scooby-Doo eats the food that is just about to reach his mouth. Later, the group stands facing Sydney Harbor, excited about visiting the only country in the world that occupies an entire continent. They admire the Sydney Harbor Bridge, one of the largest steel arch bridges in the world, as well as the city's most iconic landmark, which is the Sydney Opera House. After that, Mystery Inc. decides to spend some time at the beach. With her stunning figure, Daphne quickly finds herself surrounded by admiring young men. Fred feels jealous, but he can do nothing about it. At the same time, while Scooby-Doo and Shaggy are surfing, a shark suddenly appears. It not only chases the two of them but also scares away the men who are flirting with Daphne. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy eventually drift back to shore, although they are unharmed. A crab clamps its claw tightly onto Scooby-Doo's tail. Shaggy kindly tries to pull it off, only to have the crab latch onto his leg instead. Suddenly, Velma suggests that Mystery Inc. explore the vast, remote, and arid outbacks of Australia. It sounds rather dull at first, but she explains that the Vampire Rock Music Festival is currently being held there. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy hesitate because they are afraid they might run into real vampires, yet the others reassure them that vampire is only part of the event's name and that there are no actual vampires involved. They also remind them that large festivals usually have plenty of food, which is more than enough to make Scooby-Doo and Shaggy forget their fears. Meanwhile, at the Vampire Rock Music Festival, Jasper, who is the manager of the band Bad Omens, is arguing with a member of the organizing committee. He demands that his band be allowed to perform for 5 minutes, even though the rules clearly limit each act to 3 minutes. He even attempts to buy the championship title, but Russell firmly refuses, frustrated and unable to get his way. Jasper angrily declares that they will regret this decision before storming off with the band. Shortly after Jasper leaves, Daniel appears and reassures Russell. He reminds him that the Wild Wind Band was kidnapped by Yowie the previous year, and rumors even spread that they had been turned into vampires. Remembering Malcolm's warning, Daniel briefly considers shutting down the festival. However, Russell argues that they have both worked far too hard to build this event, and canceling it now would feel like destroying everything they have achieved. Meanwhile, Mystery Inc. heads to Vampire Rock to attend the festival. They quickly set up camp, but Scooby-Doo immediately loses his Scooby snack when a bird swoops down and snatches it away. Not long after that, the group tries riding kangaroos for fun, only for Scooby-Doo to be thrown off by a small kangaroo. Their misfortune continues when they play rugby and Scooby-Doo ends up being chased by a snake. Before long, night falls and Mystery Inc. makes their way toward the Vampire Rock Music Festival. They are surprised that the organizers are willing to invest so much money to hold a large-scale festival in such a remote and desolate location. It is only then that Velma discovers why the locals call this place Vampire Rock. According to local belief, the spirit of an Australian vampire named Yowie is said to dwell there. Later, Mystery Inc. makes their way along the road leading to the Vampire Rock Music Festival. Scooby-Doo suddenly catches sight of a pair of glowing red eyes in the distance and quickly alerts Shaggy. However, when Shaggy looks in the same direction, he sees absolutely nothing. The moment he turns away, the red eyes reveal themselves and it becomes clear that they belong to Yowie. Scooby-Doo is startled and immediately runs and tells Shaggy what he has just seen. The two of them hurry to inform the others, yet Velma, Fred and Daphne cannot see anything at all and begin to suspect that Scooby-Doo and Shaggy are simply imagining things. Suddenly, a strange noise echoes nearby and draws everyone's attention. To their surprise, not only are the red eyes present, but a pack of dingoes also appears. These wild dogs native to Australia move through the darkness cautiously. As soon as the dingoes arrive, the Red Eyes vanish and the pack soon retreats as well. Not long after that, Mystery Inc. finally reaches the Vampire Rock Music Festival. They are pleasantly surprised to discover that the Hex Girls, whom they once met in Oakhaven during the Witch Ghost incident, are scheduled to perform here. When Velma learns that the Hex Girls have already been at the festival site for several days, she asks whether they have noticed anything unusual such as a pair of glowing red eyes. The Hex Girls assure her that they have never seen anything like that. At that moment, Daniel and Russell appear to check on the situation. The Hex Girls introduce Mystery Inc. to them, but Daniel and Russell soon reveal troubling news. Several bands have recently disappeared. They fear that Yowie may be responsible for the vanishings. Just then Malcolm arrives and solemnly declares that his warning has come true. He insists that terrible things are happening because they dared to hold the Vampire Rock Music Festival at Vampire Rock and anger Yowie. Daniel and Russell then explain everything in detail to Mystery Inc. Russell also brings up the Wild Wind Band. Although the Wild Wind Band delivered an outstanding performance the previous year, they unexpectedly placed only third. Being disappointed and frustrated, so they went to Vampire Rock afterward and vanished without ever returning. Daniel admits that Malcolm has told him stories about Yowie since he was a child, but this is the first time he has witnessed anything that makes the legend feel real. Recognizing that this could be another mystery to solve, Fred suggests that Mystery Inc. disguise themselves as a band in order to lure Yowie and his vampire minions into the open. Since Daniel and Russell are short on performers, they agree to the plan. However, none of them realize that someone nearby overhears their entire conversation. Soon afterward, Mystery Inc. transforms themselves into a band. Because it is their first time performing in such a role, their acting is far from perfect. While preparing, Daphne notices a pile of white powder on the ground and identifies it as stage makeup. At the same time, Fred discovers a strange footprint that resembles the mark of a hiking boot. The print appears sticky and slick, almost like glue, but it is clearly not glue. Just then Jasper and his band Bad Omens approach. They have come to size up their new competition. Though their attitude is openly disrespectful, Mystery Inc. pays little attention to their behavior, as they are more focused on setting up camp and continuing their investigation. Velma recalls that Russell mentioned Jasper was the manager of the Wild Wind Band the previous year. Jasper had placed enormous expectations on them, but after the fateful night when they went to Vampire Rock and disappeared, he lost everything he had invested in them, unable to control his emotions. He eventually walked away and leaves Bad Omens to continue practicing on their own. After a brief conversation with Jasper, Mystery Inc. begins to form suspicions. They sense that he is the type of person who would go to extreme lengths to secure a victory. Determined to investigate further, Velma, Fred, and Daphne decide to search Jasper's vehicle. Fred prepares to distract Jasper and lure him away, but Velma suddenly notices that the vehicle door is unlocked. The three of them quietly enter and discover that Jasper has not let go of the past. Inside, they even find replicas of the Wild Wind Band's costumes, carefully preserved as if he is still clinging to what once was. Meanwhile, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy are doing what they do best, which is eating, but they have no idea that Yowie vampire minions are stealthily closing in on them. It isn't until Scooby-Doo points them out that the two immediately bolt in panic. Even though the Wild Wind Band has already been turned into minions, they still can't catch Scooby-Doo and Shaggy. They trip and stumble during the chase. On top of that, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy cleverly trick the Wild Wind Band into locking themselves inside a tanning booth. While the minions relax and forget about the pursuit, the duo successfully escapes. Elsewhere, the Bad Omens Band is rehearsing when they suddenly hear Scooby-Doo and Shaggy crying for help. Then Yowie appears. Without saying a word, he orders his minions to seize every member of Bad Omens. By the time Velma, Fred, and Daphne arrive, everything vanishes in a cloud of smoke. Even though Scooby-Doo and Shaggy witness it firsthand, they can only watch helplessly as Bad Omens are taken away. Just then Jasper shows up and the Mystery Inc. gang quickly fills him in on everything. With Bad Omens gone, Jasper doesn't know what to do next. Fred points out how serious the situation is and suggests they stay together and take turns standing guard. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy are assigned the first shift and immediately try to back out. One box of Scooby snacks isn't enough to convince them, but 2 boxes do the trick. Suddenly they are willing to guard all night. Later, while everyone else is asleep, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy spot 2 cars approaching. Mistaking them for vampires, they quickly raise the alarm. When the drivers step out, they introduce themselves as Barry and Harry from the band Two Skinny Dudes. Daniel thinks they are incredibly lucky not to have been kidnapped by Yowie, but Barry and Harry burst out laughing. They claim they explore Vampire Rock and don't see a single vampire. Daniel explains that the other bands drop out because they are too scared. Hearing that Barry and Harry assume they have already won, unaware that Mystery Inc. band enters at the last minute. Suddenly Jasper appears and asks whether anyone finds bad omens. The answer is no, but Daniel reveals that he secures a replacement band, which is two skinny dudes. Jasper immediately tries to persuade them to let him become their manager. The gang then goes with Daniel to meet Malcolm, who knows everything about the local legends, especially the stories about Yowie Yahoo. Velma discovers that vampires hate sunlight, cannot cross running water, and grow stronger with every person they control. Most strangely of all, when a vampire is photographed, it doesn't appear in the picture. Malcolm burns red eucalyptus leaves to signal a tribal council meeting at sunset. Fred notices that the smoke smells pleasant, and Malcolm explains that red eucalyptus is also valued for its honey-producing blossoms. At the council meeting, Velma asks how to defeat a vampire. Malcolm mentions sunlight again and adds that vampires are afraid of dingoes. The more he speaks, the more it sounds like he wants Daniel to cancel the music festival altogether. Suddenly Scooby-Doo notices a crocodile nearby. Shaggy tells him to ignore it, but the crocodile takes advantage of Scooby-Doo's distraction, bites him hard on the tail and swallows him whole. Fortunately, Scooby-Doo escapes with surprising ease. Despite everything, the music festival begins as scheduled. The Hex Girls perform the opening act when Yowie Yahoo suddenly appears. He immediately orders his minions to capture the members of the Hex Girls in front of the entire crowd. Although the girls try to resist, they are overpowered. As soon as Yowie Yahoo achieves his goal, he vanishes again. With no other choice, Daniel temporarily suspends the festival. Mystery Inc. finally takes action and splits into two groups to search for the cave at Vampire Rock. Velma, Fred, and Daphne aren't sure which direction to take when Daphne unexpectedly discovers a hidden tunnel. They follow it and soon uncover a chamber concealed behind a curtain. To their surprise, the vampire's hideout looks less like a cave and more like an underground storage facility. Oil lamps are still burning and electronic equipment remains warm, suggesting someone has been operating here recently. As they continue searching, Daphne wanders into another room and accidentally becomes separated from Velma and Fred while trying to find her way back. She is spotted by a member of the Wildwind Band, now under Yowie Yahoo's control. Meanwhile, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy grow frustrated after finding nothing when a pack of dingoes suddenly appears. Thinking quickly, Scooby tries to dig a hole to hide, but he accidentally breaks into a mole's burrow instead and gets chased off for disturbing it. Back in the cave, Daphne realizes she has no escape route and dives straight into a nearby lake. The move helps her evade the vampire minions and also scares off the dingoes, watching from a distance. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy jokingly hold up scorecards and give her a perfect 10. While searching for Daphne, Velma unexpectedly runs into Yowie Yahoo and his vampire minions. She turns to flee and bumps into Fred. With the Wildwind Band closing in behind them, they follow Daphne's example and leap into the lake. Yowie Yahoo refuses to back down. He hurls blazing fireballs into the sky to show off his power and orders the Wildwind Band to block Mystery Inc.'s escape. He launches another attack, but the gang narrowly avoids it. In addition to the fireballs, he unleashes powerful shockwaves. One blast sends Fred's shirt flying straight onto Shaggy. When Yowie Yahoo pauses, his vampire minions quickly surround Mystery Inc. Just as the situation turns critical, the dingoes suddenly reappear and begin chasing the Wildwind Band instead, forcing Yowie Yahoo to deal with the chaos himself. As dawn breaks, sunlight reflects off Scooby-Doo's dog tag and shines directly toward Yowie Yahoo, which weakens him. The growing daylight ultimately strips away his power. However, the Wildwind Band is still active. Fred quickly gathers Mystery Inc. and makes a run for it, nearly leaving Shaggy behind until Scooby-Doo pulls him along. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy then volunteer to act as bait, luring the Wildwind Band into a trap. The plan doesn't go perfectly, but it works well enough. Fred catches Scooby-Doo while Velma fails to catch Shaggy. Shaggy panics because he is worried that the Wildwind Band will escape, but Velma calmly reminds him that they aren't real vampires. Fred grabs a hose and sprays them down, washing away the disguise and exposing the truth. To everyone's shock, the figures underneath are Barry and Harry of Two Skinny Dudes, and even more surprising, Russell is the one leading the scheme. Velma quickly pieces everything together. She briefly considers Jasper a suspect because of his connection to Two Skinny Dudes, but he has a solid alibi because at the moment Bad Omens disappears, He is negotiating with the Hex Girls. He admits he keeps that quiet because he fears it could damage his professional reputation. As for the vampire costumes Mystery Inc. finds in the van, Jasper explains that he keeps them as memorabilia from the Wild Wind Band. In the final reveal, the truth comes out. Behind Russell and the members of Two Skinny Dudes are actually last year's Wild Wind Band members, staging the entire haunting to eliminate the competition. Now the Wild Wind Band finally explains everything. They believe they deserve to win last year's competition, but they only placed third. Bitter about the results, so they begin planning their comeback for the following year. First, they deliberately disappear at Vampire Rock to spark rumors about a vampire legend. Then one of them takes on the identity of Russell to gain Daniel's trust, while the other two reinvent themselves as Barry and Harry to form Two Skinny Dudes. Their plan is simple: if every other band drops out, their victory at the Vampire Rock Music Festival becomes inevitable. To strengthen the legend, all three of them also dress up as vampires to spread fear and keep the story alive. As for their ability to fly, they reveal that they use professional climbing gear and rigging equipment to move through the cliffs and create the illusion of levitation. When asked about the other missing bands, the Wild Wind Band shows Mystery Inc. their location. However, the Hex Girls refuse to go along with the scheme, so they are abandoned in the desert and have to struggle their way back to Vampire Rock on their own. Even after learning that the Wild Wind Band orchestrates the entire vampire hoax, Malcolm still wants to understand what Yowie Yahoo really is. Mystery Inc. explains that the band specializes in stage effects and advanced projection technology. The terrifying figure everyone sees is nothing more than a sophisticated holographic illusion. That also explains why the sunlight reflecting off Scooby-Doo's dog tag causes Yowie Yahoo to vanish.